If you guys are watching this video, then that means you've noticed I have finally changed my profile picture. About a month ago, I asked you guys what I should change it to, and my 3rd grade yearbook photo got the most amount of likes. Now, unfortunately, I don't know where my 3rd grade yearbook even is, so I think this current one is probably the best option I have. I was in the 4th grade when this was taken, I think. I really don't talk about it much, but when I was a kid, I did Taekwondo, and I was considered elite. I was considered, I was considered one of the better kids in the class, for sure. Like, a lot of the other parents who were watching the class, a lot of times they'd be talking about me because I kind of had that aura in the dojo, I feel like. Like, I feel like I was that kid, you know what I mean? I was that one right there. So I think the profile photo is very fitting, and it keeps me consistent with my Instagram, in which if you're not following, please do. But anyway, on to today's video. Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. It is a very interesting fight, but I'll be honest, I think the UFC kind of dropped the ball with this one. I personally would have much rather saw Sean Strickland fight Robert Whittaker for a title eliminator and then put Paulo Costa against Hamzat. I really think those would have been the fights to make. I think they're more fair to the rankings. And skill level wise, just based on what we've seen from these guys, I think those are better matchups. But even with that all being said, I am actually pretty excited to see Costa fight Strickland. Most people believe Strickland is going to win. Which, I would agree that is probably the safe pick for this fight, but I do think Costa has one tool in particular that if he uses correctly, he can 100% win this fight. Most people I'm seeing right now who are entertaining the prospect of Costa winning this fight, they're saying things along the lines of, Costa just needs to walk him down and put Strickland on the back foot like DDP did. Strickland is not the same fighter backing up as he is moving forward. But honestly, I don't think that's exactly true, and I don't think that's the sole reason why Du Plessis was able to win that fight. Now, of course, by no means do I think it's a smart strategy for Costa to allow himself to get pressured. But at the same time, I don't think going at Strickland like he did Yoel Romero is his best chance of winning this fight. The number one thing when it comes to this matchup is Sean Strickland is going to be far more skilled than Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa has a lot of physical attributes, and he relies on those very heavily. He's big, he's durable, he goes at you, and he throws bombs. And because of that, because of all those attributes, he's never needed to develop really high-level defense. You look at some of his fights during his come-up, like the one against Uriah Hall is a great example. Uriah Hall could not miss with his jab. He was clearly the far more technical striker. But he had made a huge error in his game plan for the fight. He had said that he's not going to let Costa walk him down, he's going to hold the center, and he's not going to allow himself to get pushed back. Well, that was a horrible idea because Paulo Costa is the last guy you want to be in the pocket with, because he was clearly a lot bigger and a lot more powerful. Despite Uriah Hall's success, Costa was able to absorb all of his strikes and eventually just broke him. But this all came to a head when he fought Israel Adesanya, and every single time Costa tried to pressure him, Izzy would just circle away, he would fight behind his leg kicks and long jabs, and, we know how that fight ended. Not very well. And then the Luke Rockhold fight is where Costa really got exposed. I mean, Luke, because they were at altitude, he gassed out horribly about a minute in. He was practically having an asthma attack the entirety of that fight. He was bent over, hands on his knees, just looking to throw one right hand every single time Costa walked into range. He was not hiding it in the slightest. He was just sitting there showing him, I am going to wing this at you as hard as I can if you step any closer to me. And Paulo got completely stumped by this. He did not know what to do. He even got cracked once pretty bad, despite Luke not even hiding the fact that he's just launching a right hand any chance he gets. And that fight just showed, frankly, that Costa is not a very skillful striker. He relies pretty much 100% on his athleticism and his attributes. But to my surprise, against Robert Whittaker, he actually made some changes. Of course, he's still not going to be on the same level technically, but he wasn't going at him recklessly like he had done to so many other people. He was holding the center, he was fighting behind his jab, behind calf kicks, and high kicks. His high kicks are genuinely so good. He throws them so fast, very little telegraph. he has legitimately done a lot of cross-training in Taekwondo, and it really shows, and I think that is gotta be his key against Sean Strickland. Because when you look back at the DDP fight, right, yes, Du Plessis did have Strickland backing up the entire time, and he landed some very good shots on Strickland, but for the most part, Strickland's defense was really, really good. Even on the back foot, he was doing such a good job either just sliding away of Dinkus's shots or bringing his arms up and catching them on his shoulders. But the big problem he was having was Dinkus was coming forward with these huge overhands, and Strickland was not finding any counters. And because he wasn't making him pay for these huge misses, Dricus just kept coming and kept throwing, and he was getting closer and closer every single time until eventually he landed. It wasn't that Strickland's Philly shell gets thrown out the window as soon as he's backing up. That's not it. I mean, if that was the case, then that fight wouldn't have been such a razor-close decision, because he was getting backed up the entirety of that fight. The one weakness I do see in the Philly shell, though, is when it comes to high kicks. Traditionally, if you're doing kickboxing, they tell you, do not use the Philly shell. You are going to get kicked in the head. You can shoulder roll punches beautifully. You cannot shoulder roll a kick. But Strickland is able to get around this because of how he pressures people. Good luck setting up a decent high kick constantly on your bike with Strickland in your face. But there's been some key moments that Strickland has shown that he is vulnerable to high kicks when he's on the back foot. Abus Magomedov, because he was pressuring Strickland so hard, was able to set up some really good high kicks. And Dricus was also finding success with the high kicks as well. And honestly, I think if he had really focused on them, he would have had a lot of success with them. But again, since Strickland wasn't making him pay for those huge lunging misses, he stuck with it. Again, we go back to Costa. If he decides just to march Strickland down and just constantly throw haymakers, he may eventually be able to land. I think he's going to struggle to do so, and he is going to get his face chewed up with jabs. I mean, well, in all honesty, he probably already is going to get his face chewed up with jabs. But Dricus, while not being known for having good striking defense at all, is still better than Costa. And he's not finishing the fight in one punch. He's going to have to overwhelm Strickland with strikes. And that's so hard to do because Sean's boxing defense is off the charts, even on the back foot. I really think the less boxing Paulo Costa does in this matchup, the better chances he has of winning. What he should do is what he did in the Robert Whittaker fight, and just hold the center. You don't necessarily need to be marching Strickland down, but just don't get backed up. And if he can hide some high kicks behind his jabs, I think he has a better ability at landing them than Du Plessis has. His kicking technique, it's better, it's faster. Of course, he's not as good of a kickboxer, but in that specific area, he's better. So I really, really think if Costa can execute that game plan perfectly, this is a very, very winnable fight. But again, the problem with picking him in this matchup is Sean Strickland is all around way more skilled. He's a way better boxer. His defense is a lot better. He is going to land a lot of jabs on Costa. But in a 5-round fight, he's not going to have the ability to put him away. And if anyone can take advantage of this one weakness in Sean's defense, Costa is the guy to do it. This is just very game plan dependent. And the last time I relied on a fighter sticking to a correct game plan, I lost my 10-fight parlay because of one fight.